Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Art of Flow. Episode 10 is probably going to be our last episode on this series. We've talked about a lot of things. Definitely, if you feel stuck or anything, definitely give those videos a rewatch, just so you can get your mind fresh. Through all the concepts and stuff we've talked about. We talked about a lot of things. And today we're going to be focusing on transitions, right? So, in accordance with flow, everything has to have a certain order, like we determined. And your transitions was what's going to help you get that fluid mentality in there, right? Depending on how smooth your transitions are, you can pull off a lot of stuff a lot more cleaner. Your shows are going to be looking better because you're not getting stuck. You know how to transition from each concept to concept. Again, this comes down to you practicing, seeing which ways you can transition from move to move, and from concept to concept, right? I'll give you some examples as well so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's a good thing to practice from going to concept and knowing how to manipulate the grid, so you can transition smoothly, right? It's all about illusion. It's all about you giving that illusion that you're transitioning from one point to the other, or from one concept to the other smoothly, right? You want to give that impression that it's all a show, right? There's a certain order. There's a beginning, a middle, an end. Just how like a song goes, a story, a movie. It's basically like that. You're creating your own dance with lights, and you're creating that show that goes smoothly and cleanly. And there's a bunch of stuff involved in that, like we talked about. But however, there's some examples I'll give you so you can visualize what I'm saying, right? So let's say you're like doing finger rolls out here and you want to transition to tech per se. A good thing that I've learned is that if you're doing finger rolls and you want to transition into tech, you can just stop at this finger, right? At the end finger. And then you can go to some tech from there, right? You can just transition, do whatever you want, however you do your tech. We went over tech as well in a previous video, but that's a good way that you can just be doing finger rolls, and then when you want to stop and do some techie stuff, or you can transition into dials. Let's say you're doing liquid, right? Which is just imitating water movements. Again, you're not isolating anything in liquid. You're just basically moving your hands in a pattern, like we talked about. But let's say you want to transition to some tutting moves, right? You can just bring your liquid, and let's say you end up in a tutting structure like this, right? You can pull off more liquid if you want, or you can go into some tutting from there, right? It follows a certain order because you stop the liquid and you stop in this position, and then you can go into some tutting moves, right? Some tutting structures, whatever combos but you can pull off that transition seamlessly because you're doing liquid, and then you can stop and do some tutting things, right? Also with dials, you can do a lot of stuff with dials, because dials you can just transition into tutting structures, into finger tutting structures. Like we said, you can do some isolations. You can be rotating stuff around. Let's say you're switching fingers right here, and whenever you have a line, you can travel to that point, right? You can also, if you're just doing the normal dials, you can also pull up more rotation, like we said, by moving your whole arm, right? It gives you more range to do stuff. And then you can involve that with finger tutting. Because with finger tutting, you basically are working with right angles, right? You're working with straight angles. So you have a lot of potential with simple dials, right? Depending on how you rotate, but you have a lot more rotation involved if you do the full dial, right? And again, there's a lot of ways you can move with dials, and that gives you more transition potential, right? Because it's just a simple dial. You can be moving into clusters, like I said. That's why they usually go together. They're like kind of like cousins, I would say, because you can pull up some clusters with dials, and you can be opening up finger tutting structures. Again, you want to practice that in the mirror, right? To see that your angles are straight, that your fingers are facing the right axis that you want to emphasize. But there's a lot of stuff you can do with just simple dials, right? You don't have to stay connected, but you can give that illusion that everything is still moving in accordance, right? Let's say you have a dial here, you move this one over there, you move this one over here, you turn it. Be aware of those points, right? You don't want to be really moving the points. You're just rotating the points. You can isolate there, you can isolate here, move one, move the other, bring them together, rotate this one, then you have another structure right here. You can isolate right there, isolate right here. And again, it's just simple dials that you're doing. But you know what points are on the grid, right? Also, you can be going from just simple tutting structures, finger tutting structures, and let's say you bring this down, you pull these together, then you go into dials right here. You bring out the other dials right there. Again, you want to practice to make sure everything's straight. And then let's say you move into this structure. You have like a dial right there. You can do some cluster stuff if you're really skilled. Again, I'm not really that skilled with clusters. I've been practicing some simple clusters, just like the motion, right? I want to get better at that, but it takes time, right? It takes time. So I've been working on that as well, and there's a lot of stuff that you can expand on when you learn clusters and dial movements, right? So again, I'm just rotating stuff, twisting it. I'm not really doing anything intricate. I'm just isolating points using dials, right? I'm just using 2 fingers right now. I'm not really using all my fingers, but I can still do some stuff, right? Using the patterns as well. Remember to use your patterns. Doesn't really have to be always connected, right? Some people like to just stay connected the whole time. That's fine. It depends on how you glove. But for me, I like to mess around, with patterns. So I don't stay connected the whole time. Again, there's no real rules saying that you have to stay connected. But when you want to give off that techie look, if you want to be really technical with your gloving, right? That everything is morphing together, you want to practice on staying connected. Practice just traveling throughout the grid, seeing where you can go. It doesn't really have to be dials, right? It could be, you can turn this into pass-throughs. Whatever pass-throughs you want to make. That's another good transition, right? You can just be doing pass-throughs, and then when you want to stop, let's say you want to stop here, you can turn this around, open this up, do more pass-through motions, bring up a dial over here, bring it that way, bring it this way, bring out all the fingers out. Then you can go to, I have this as my home base, basically because it's pretty easy to pull off any type of move from this position. So I'm really used to this position, right? Because you can go into tutting right here. You can go into some finger waves right there. You can go into some wave tuts right here. You can go into tutting. You can go into finger tutting. There's a lot of stuff you can do from this position. right? This right here. So that's kind of like my home base where I go whenever I think I feel stuck and I want to do something, right? That's like my home base. There's home bases in tutting as well, where you have like a certain position that you can always, pull off moves from. A lot of people have this. Some people have like this right here, this box. Some people have this box right here, where they can go and do whatever they really want to, other combos they have practice, right? There's a lot of stuff you can do, but you got to practice on how to transition through each concept, right? Let's say you're doing whips right here and you want to stop doing whips. You can bring like a dial and be like tracing, well, not tracing, like jumping each finger. Then you can bring it up over here, do like a finger wave with a dial. Oh man, I'm really off center. I don't know what's happening with this camera. Anyway, you can do some dials over here. Then you can open up just one finger, then go into techie stuff right there, right? It's how you pull off those smooth transitions, right? You want to make everything be morphing together, right? Everything following a fluid transition. That's what you want to get good at, right? And you want to get good at not just having a certain routine or certain moves, like I said. You want to be able to figure out new patterns, new moves, and then get used to that. Do it a lot, and then you won't really have to be thinking about what you're really going to do next. What I have in my head is like, I know which moves I want to perform, and I think about a way to transition smoothly through it. Now, some people might take stuff away, like let's say you're doing figure eights, regular figure eights, and then you bring it back and then bring out new structures. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people might not like it. Some people might not do it. There's nothing wrong with that, though, because you're pulling the flow away and then you're bringing it back with a new structure. But like I said, if you want to be really technical, you want to be able to just pull off any sort of move without pulling stuff away and then making it reappear, right? You can practice both of that. Like I said, if you're really, really stuck somewhere and then you just want to take stuff away and then, do some other moves, that's fine. It depends how you flow. There's nothing wrong with just taking it away because it makes sense, right? It makes sense. You're taking this structure away and then you're making it reappear. Again, it follows grid mentality. It follows transitions. It follows imagery. It's valid. Some people might not like it. That's their preference. But it's not something that's, oh yeah, that's a no-no in gloving. Like, you can't do that. No. You can definitely do that if you feel like you want to add that showmanship as well, right? Because you're taking stuff away and then you're making new structures reappear. It's still valid. But you want to be able to work on those transitions, not always rely on taking stuff away and then making it reappear, Just work on all the concepts, knowing the concepts, right? Knowing how they work. And then you're going to be able to manipulate that grid, right? Manipulate that grid, see how you can make those seamless transitions and be working on that, right? Like I said, let's say I have this structure here. What can I do? I can pull off some tutting structures right there, right? Go into some tutting. Let's say I want to go to stacking from this. Then I can just bring this over here. And then I have the stacking motion going over there. Let's say I want to go from here to tutting. I can definitely pull this here, go into some tutting movements. Let's say I want to go to liquid. I can just pull it away. And look, it turned into liquid, right? But I followed a certain pattern. I followed a certain transition that I used. It wasn't really preset. I was just thinking in the moment of, oh, okay, this would look good because I can just transition from tutting and then bring it apart and do some liquid. You can pull up to liquid, to whips. Again, all the fluid concepts are really easy to flow together with, like liquid, finger rolls, whips, flails, because you're just following a certain pattern, and then you can flip-flop in between those, right? Let's say you're doing whips and then you want to do some finger rolls. You're just pulling stuff back, pulling it forward. Let's say I want to transition right there to finger tutting. I can do that. What other concepts are there that we haven't talked about? Let's see. I can bring this right here, pull it right there. And let's say I want to go into like threading. So I just pull up that move right there and then go pull off some threads, right? You can do it that way. You can do it this way. I think I'm going to make a video about threading. It's its own little concept, but you can use that as a transitional move. You can go from threading, let's say, then I want to do some poking right there. Let's say I want to transition to some finger rolls from here. I can definitely pull that over there and then be doing some finger rolls over here. Then I want to go into, what else can I go into? I want to do some finger waves from there. Then I want to pull this and do some clusters per se. So I got to figure out how to bring those points, right? And then go into a cluster move. Again, I can't really tell you what transitions to use because only you know your moves, only you know what moves you're making. But that's one thing you want to practice. How do I go from one concept to the other using all that we've talked about, right? And if you know all the concepts we talked about, you can definitely pull off a light show without really thinking too much about what move you're going to make next, right? Again, it just comes with knowing the patterns, how to use that grid mentality, right? Everything's just flowing together. Not really having to stay connected, right? But everything is moving in accordance with musicality, grid, mentality, flow, and using those isolations, using the patterns, and knowing how to use each concept to its full potential, right? Because just with dials, you can be doing a lot of stuff, right? Now, say you want to add digits to that. Again, digits, going into pass-throughs, going into some other tech. Let's say you want to just work on the geometry aspect of it, right? You can pull up the move I showed you, right? Just pulling that together, go into dials again, do that thing. You can definitely assemble this and then go into like a thread movement. Then you have just your pinkies out. You can definitely do some just rotations. You can definitely do some stacking or moving around the grid in this motion. Then say you want to go into dials again. You can pull this right here, go into a dial motion, open this up. Again, there's a lot of stuff you can combine and know how to transition from each concept to concept. The thing you got to remember is everything has to flow together and you got to keep a certain pattern and knowing how you got there, right? There has to be like a logical way for you to get somewhere for it to look smooth, right? Because you can't just be doing liquid right there and then just start doing finger rolls from over here. It might look decent, but however you can make it connect, right? You can be doing liquid right here, pull it back, and then go into finger rolls, see? Go into finger rolls, then go into some more liquid, figure eights, go into some just random structures that you can make. Again, come in with your own creativity. And then once you start just doing that, it's going to come easier and naturally because you know what's being moved and how to move through each concept fluidly. Then you can start flowing, actually. You can just start flowing to songs and using all the concepts that you've learned. And not really having to get stuck somewhere because you know how to transition. You know how to use those moves, right? You know how to make everything flow together. And just experiment. Experiment, see what other transitions you can make. There's a lot of ways you can transition. Watch some shows as well on how everybody transitions. How do they move from tutting to dials? How do they move from tutting to liquid? How do they move from liquid to finger rolls? How do they move from stacking to tech? A lot of stuff. Everybody flows their own way, but you can see how they transition, right? You can see how they use, what motions they use, what patterns they use, how they transition, what they isolated. Again, it's just going to come from you studying that and you messing around with your own flow, seeing how everything transitions. You want to make it one whole fluid show, right? Again, it doesn't have to be fluid concepts all the time, but you can know how to stop something and then go into some other concept. Easy, right? Not really, but after you've been flowing a while, it's going to come natural to you. And as you learn more concepts, you got to figure out ways to transition to that, right? To transition to those new structures you've learned, new concepts, new moves. Just know how to incorporate it into something. And after you've been flowing a while, it's not going to be difficult to figure out. Like if you know some new moves that you just learned and want to combine them into your flow, you just got to know which things to move so you can get there, right? So you can get to that structure. But anyways, guys, I can talk about transitions all day. If you need help, definitely let me know. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about transitions. And with that, we conclude our episode of The Art to Flow. Again, I'll be bringing you guys new videos. Probably is gonna be about concepts. We're definitely gonna be talking about sacred geometry, but this series has come to a close. So we're going to be diving into some other stuff for a little bit, but we're still going to be talking about flow and gloving in general, right? The goal is for you to get good at flowing continuously and knowing how to incorporate your movements, pulling off cleanly, pulling them off to the beat of the music, using musicality, showmanship, animation. There's a lot of stuff you can practice. Nobody really reaches that level of, oh, I'm a master at flow, because you never really stop learning, stop practicing. I still practice like the basics, like finger rolls. I don't think I have perfect finger rolls right. So I'm always just practicing finger rolls or liquid or, moves I've already learned. Because if you don't use it, you lose it, kind of. So it's just endless growth, pretty much. But as more as you practice, the better you get, the better you know how to manipulate the grid, manipulate those concepts, and know how to transition through them and make your light show, right? That's the goal, right? Make you a good flow artist, make you comfortable with your flow, make you knowing how to connect everything fluidly, how to manipulate the grid, and have fun with it, right? How to have fun with it. Because if you're good at manipulating flow, you're going to be having fun with it, right? It's going to be fun for you, fun for the viewer, fun for everybody. So just keep practicing how to transition everything together to make your flow connected. Anyways, guys, that's it for transitions. Keep practicing, keep making your own transitions, and I will be seeing you in the next episode. Well, not next episode, but next video. Anyways, guys, have a great day and keep throwing lights. Peace.